Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and in today's video, we are working with the new IOD transfer called Seed Catalog. Wait till you see what I transformed in today's video. For project one, I pulled out this old bean pot that I had in my stash. It initially had a lid, which unfortunately got broken. I didn't know what to do with it. So in today's video, I pulled out the new DIY cottage color called Crockery, which was curated by Jamie Ray Vintage. And I pulled out the new IOD transfer called Seed Catalog. And as I'm going through it, I am already loving the colors, the images, and it made me realize it's going to work perfectly and pair perfectly with the other transfer called Ephemeral Melange. Now, all the products in today's video you can find on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. If you haven't worked with the cottage colors yet, they are absolutely amazing, but definitely different than the clay-based paints. The clay-based paints from DIY are a bit thicker and go on a bit heavier, where I would recommend that you put it on thinner layers of the cottage colors. The other suggestion is definitely make sure that your coats of paint are dry in between. I rushed this a bit and there was a couple areas where it was not completely dry and the paint lifted. Other than that, the coats go on perfect if it's completely dry. So that is my pro tip for the cottage colors. And you definitely need to let this cure and completely dry, and it will work perfectly on your surface. Here it is, 2 coats of paint, completely dry, and I'm absolutely loving this transformation already. But now I want to add a transfer. This transfer, I feel like, was made for this piece. Once I put it on, you're going to see that it really looks like it was on here for ages. When you are working with a curved surface like this, it is a bit harder to get the transfer on. Also, to get it on perfectly. I did not mind that it did have a little bit of a couple wrinkles, a couple creases. It made it look very authentic and old, and that is the look I was going for. So if you are a complete perfectionist and you want your transfer on there absolutely perfect, this is probably not the project for you. I like things perfect as well, but sometimes I have to embrace the imperfections of a project and realize that on old Crocs, it was not perfect. For project 2, I always pick up these little crates when I see them. This one was 99 cents. And my vision here is I'm going to paint the front white. I do like doing that with these little crates, just having like a focal point. So I'm going to paint it white and then put on a transfer on the front. I am using White Swan from DIY. And in today's video, I am going to do what Debbie Beard recommended doing. She said that she never seals any of the paint before she applies the transfer, and I am going to try that today, and honestly guys, it worked out just fine. I did not seal any of the DIY paint prior to applying the transfers, and I had no issues using any of these transfers. So I am applying 2 even coats of paint here, letting it dry, and then coming back and applying the transfer. Now this transfer is far too big for this piece, so keep in mind, you do not have to leave your transfers as is. You can cut apart the transfers, piece them together however you want. So I'm cutting off the wording and then I'm going to make the P's fit on here, apply that, and then come back and add the wording. Now something went awry here. If you notice the little chunk of the P is missing, I have no idea what went wrong and where it went. So I think when I was burnishing it, anytime you're using a transfer, after you get the transfer on your item, you do want to take that backing and then rub all over to really burnish your transfer. And somehow I don't know where it went. So eventually I'll probably find a little chunk of green pea somewhere, but I could not find it. So I am going to, again, work with that imperfection and apply the wording to this piece. And I love how it turned out. For project 3, this was actually inspired from my friend Kim over at the Chalk Trunk. Definitely go over and follow her pages. She's out on Instagram, Facebook, and she just started a YouTube channel as well. Now, I have painted teapots in the past. What she did differently though is she painted just the base and she left a lot of like the handle, the actual spout, and the top as is. And she said, and then she applied a transfer to them. And I absolutely fell in love with the look of this. And I decided to do that to this picture. So I am leaving the handle silver. I'm also leaving the inside all silver. And we are painting just the base, White Swan from DIY Paint. I am applying 2 even coats to this. And then we are going to come back and apply a transfer. When I was peeking through the seed catalog, this transfer caught my eye right away because there is a very large scale transfer of this and I love it, you guys. I wanted to use this right away on this picture, but I knew it was going to be too big, so I decided to get creative, cut it in half, and then use the wording separately as well. And again, you can definitely get creative and use your transfers however you'd like. So I am cutting it in half, like I said, cutting out the words, and then we're going to apply them to the picture. My vision here is I want when I lay the transfers down, I want them to kind of meet in the front of the picture. So how I angle the roses. And then on one of the sides, which will be this side, that is where I'm going to put the wording and that will be our focal point for the picture. I am loving this, you guys, and I think this transfer is absolutely beautiful. Here I'm adding the wording and you would never know the difference that this is not how this transfer was intended to look. Now I'm going to the back side and adding the florals on that next, and I cannot wait to show you the up close finished project. But before I do that, I do want to bring out some of the detail on the lower half of this picture. There are actually little floral flowers that remind me of roses. So I'm taking a damp rag and I am just wet distressing those. I'm doing that around the bottom. I'm also going to go around the top. There is just a little piece of like trim and I just want a little bit of that silver to pop through as well. For project 4, I did have this frame just sitting around in my stash. I decided to cut out a chunk of cardboard. I always get these pieces of cardboard in my shipments. I always save them, so I cut out a chunk for the backing, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it today. I recently thrifted this old hymnal book, and I was going to just use it in a book stack, and I'm like, I love these pages. So I'm using a page out of this book, and I'm going to create that as my background on that piece of cardboard. And then we're going to use the IOD seed catalog, just a chunk of one of the transfers on this book page. Now again, the transfer that I picked out is not going to completely fit on here, so I am actually going to use just the flowers on the bottom, and then I'm going to keep that top portion and I am going to use it in a later project. I am going to use liquid patina as my decoupage medium, and I am decoupaging that little book sheet to the cardboard. And I'm going to use the decoupage medium just as I do with the recycled paper. I am going to use a starter strip, so I'm going to lay just a nice even layer of liquid patina down, rub that in, smooth it out, and then continue on. And this is going to help alleviate any of the wrinkles that you may all get when you're using decoupage paper or paper of some sort. You just want to, like I said, have a nice even coat of liquid patina down, then work in sections all the way down. After I smooth it all out, I am going to take the liquid patina and apply a nice even layer over the entire book sheet. And then I'm going to let it dry very thoroughly, and then we're going to come back and apply the actual transfer. Like I said, this was going to be too big for this piece, so we're cutting off the excess. And I always keep all of my extra transfer pieces all together to reuse on future projects, which we'll definitely be using that on the next one. So I am laying it down, and just like I had in the past, pulled the backing off and use that transfer stick and rub it all over. I absolutely love how the florals pair with the musical notes of that paper, and I put it back in that frame, and I love how that blues really make all these bright colors of the transfer pop. For our fifth and final project today, I had this sitting in my stash for a while. I picked it up on one of my recent thrifting missions, and I loved the little caddy look, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to decorate it up. And so I have been just waiting for the right inspiration to flip this. And after I saw the seed catalog, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I wanted to brighten things up first and foremost. So I'm using Old 57 from DIY, and I'm applying 2 even coats to the entire piece. We're going to let it dry very thoroughly. And then we're going to come back and we are going to decorate the heck out of this little caddy and make it look perfect for your garden. Initially, I was going to only decorate the ends, and then I decided, nope, I am going to decorate all 4 sides, and I'm going to make it look really eclectic and just use all different pieces all over the entire crate. And first and foremost, I cut apart this section. I wanted the front to say seeds, so I ended up cutting that chunk out. And again, I am just piecing all the different transfers all over, and in the end, they are going to look like they were always meant to be there. I decided I was going to add a little bit of these strawberries, and after I did this, guys, I actually was really disappointed with my selection here, and I was almost regretting laying that down. I thought maybe I should have cut more of the pieces out, laid them about, but once I went in all in, I'm like, I'm going to make this work. I decided to go to the next side and just come back to the front after I get a few more sides done. Maybe I will have a different vision for the front focal point. So I started on this side. I laid down the transfer. The one flower would have been sticking off too far, so I cut him off, and then I'm going to just reposition him and lay him in there like you would never know that I cut apart the transfer and I'm salvaging a whole chunk of it. Now I wanted to add something to the very top, and I'm kind of looking through all my transfers. I finally decide to add just one little chunk going sideways, and I'm still thinking in my head, what am I going to put on top? And you guys remember that little chunk from the previous video or the previous project? I decided that was the perfect piece to put on here, and this side is done. Then we go on to the next side, and I found another transfer to put over here. The wording, again, stuck off a little bit too much, so I cut that off, and I applied the top portion of the transfer as is, and then I positioned the wording on the bottom, and again, just laid that down and rubbed that on, got it to fit just perfect. Now on to the fourth side, and on this transfer, my vision here is I'm cutting off the two little leaves on the dahlia, and it had some wording, and I'm going to position that right in the center, and I think it's going to look absolutely perfect. Here I'm laying it down, and it kind of looks like a logo. I thought it was very cool looking. And then on each side, I'm taking another chunk of a transfer, cutting it in half, and applying that on each side. The one thing that I really love about this whole transfer set is that the colors are all coordinating. So if you do decide to cut apart, pick and choose different pieces out of each of the transfers, it just looks like it all is coordinating and works together. Now back to the front, and I decided to add some strawberries to the other side to kind of make it look cohesive, like it was all strawberries. And then I had a little wording, and I decided to put it over those strawberries as well. And I think in the end, I absolutely love it. This new release for the IOD transfers is like absolutely outstanding. I just dove into the seed catalog today, but oh my gosh, you guys, the possibilities. Do not think you only have to use the transfer as is. I did try to show you in today's video, you can do that, but you can cut apart and piece the transfers however you want. Be creative. I hope you got some great inspiration from what I did today. What was your favorite piece though? Honestly, I'm a little torn. I love the DIY crockery all-in-one cottage color paint and how I transformed that piece of pottery to make it look like a crock. I love that. I also, guys, this, I don't want to give up. I think it might be in my collection for a bit. This transfer on the big scale is just absolutely beautiful. But with the seed catalog, having that in there, oh my. Anyway, enough about how I want to keep everything I always make. And if you've been following along for a little bit, you know that I tend to keep things for a bit and then I end up putting them in my booth. So I use it in my decor and then I put it in my booth eventually for one of you to purchase as well. So Monday's video, not yet sure. I am softballing all weekend long with my peanut. We are actually going down to West Bend, Wisconsin for a tournament there, staying at a hotel. So it's going to be a little bit more of an R&R for me, which I definitely need since doing this full time. I have been maximizing all my hours each and every day. I just feel like I need to hit the ground running and try to get as much accomplished as I possibly can. But I also have to realize I have to give myself a little grace and realize I am human and I need some downtime as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you guys have a great weekend and we will see you Monday. Bye.